Okay, so clickbaity, thumbnail, title aside, I am a previous 6-year owner of my original 404SX and a proud new owner of my 1-week old SX model right here that's sitting on my desk. And with that being said, I'm making this video to shine a light on a newer product that I purchased about 11 months ago with money that I got from selling my previous 404 model, and that is the 1010Music Blackbox. Very small, throw it like a frisbee, and I purchased that with the intention of making it my brain slash sampler DAWless music production performance box, and so far I have no regrets.
Yo. Hey yo man, that's trill.
Yeah, you know we too real.
So homie, what's the deal?
Kicking back, trying to chill.
So here we are. I wrote down a little list of my similarities between both of these devices and some pros and cons. So we will go through that right now. Both of these devices can stream and sample long form content from the SD cards that they both take. So the SP404 takes standard SD cards and the 1010Music Blackbox takes micro SD cards. Just assume that both of these guys can rock like a 30-minute song per sample slot, you know? So similar in that aspect. They both can manipulate the samples in their own unique ways. They both have the ability to sequence beats in box, both unquantized and quantized. They both have onboard effects, whereas the SP404 has 29 effects. The Blackbox has 2 dedicated effects, and I consider the filter to be a part of the effects overall as well. So we'll say 3 for the Blackbox and 29 for the 404. They both can be battery powered, as in they're both portable. The 404SX will run off of AA batteries, while the Blackbox runs off of, if you wanted to make it portable, it'll run off of your portable power bank. You could run the 404 off of a power bank as well, but you need a separate adapter that can transmit the currents to work with the 404. But they can both play samples in gate mode, one-shot mode, looped mode, as well as reversing samples for playback. So they both have the same sample playback methods, whereas the Blackbox has a couple of more. I guess we'll go over them right now. The Blackbox can do a granular mode, which is really, really sick. It can also ping pong your loops or whatever loop you have going on. It can go from forward to back. So definitely a plus for the Blackbox. So I wrote down a bunch of pros and cons for the Blackbox versus the 404. One of the first ones that I wrote down was it's small and super portable. So both of these devices are actually very portable, but I remember when I had my old 404, throwing it in my bag was definitely possible, and I took it to the park a bunch of times. As portable as it is compared to the Blackbox, I mean, come on. You could essentially put 2 Blackboxes on top of each other to be one 404. Definitely one of the pros compared to the 404 for the Blackbox is its size. Also, talking about size, we're talking about the screen, and they're not even comparable as screens. This just kind of shows you your on and off status for your effects, your BPM and countdown information, but the Blackbox, obviously, you have a ton of information when it comes to your different menu screens for your keys, your sequence screen, just so much more information to be had for your mix screen, your presets. Definitely one of the pros over the 404 for the Blackbox is its touchscreen and the information that's displayed. Easier sample editing is another pro for the Blackbox over the 404, considering the fact that you can see your waveforms. You're able to zoom in, create really, really precise loop points on the Blackbox compared to the 404. You could definitely create nice sounding and pristine loops on the SX, but it's definitely a pro on the Blackbox compared to the 404. One thing that I really, really wished that I had on the 404 was ability to pitch down samples. So we'll do this right here. You could just hear the algorithm. That in and of itself was one of the reasons why I bought this box. Aside from that, you have really good, let's go to granular. Like that's beautiful. It's like the poor man's time stretch. And this box also time stretches. So depending on what your BPM is and you have it in clip mode, you can time stretch a sample. It's when it comes to sample editing and mangling, I think the Blackbox has the 404 beat. Even though the 404 has its own quirks and unique features to mangling a sample, Blackbox taking a cake on that one. So another pro that the Blackbox has is sample management folder system. So you have 16 pads that you can fill with your samples, and you go to load. Presets are sort of like the samples that you do with the audio in, and you create little preset folders. So I have like a Mob Psycho one, like some Ray J samples, Slime, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, some Tinashe stuff. But then you also have stuff that you can put via your SD card. So I have some kind of drum kits from this dude Siri, which is pretty cool. For the SP404, it's nice to have instant access to a bunch of different banks and pads at one time, but it could get really, really cluttered when you forget, like, oh, is J my anime samples? Or sometimes you might have had a sample on pad 2 in my anime section, but when I was trying to find an empty pad to record, I just put like a horn section in there or something. So it's a big pro on the Blackbox for its file management system. It's really, really nice. So another pro for the Blackbox is the ability to stack the effects. The Blackbox only has 2 onboard effects, which is its reverb and delay. But unlike the 404, you are able to stack both of those effects. So let's try to get DJ, please, DJ, please. So you got the beat sync off. Let's do that. Do a big feedback. Which is cool, so got to turn that down. But yeah, so one of the big things for me when I'm jamming is being able to stack the effects to create just a more interesting tone or audible wave. And on the 404, it's dope as a performance tool because you can play it has so many effects that are available to you, but you can only do them one at a time. You can resample and stack effects that way, but it's not the same as doing it in real time, putting a reverb and delay on something. And the Blackbox, like I said, only has those 2 dedicated effects, but it also has, aside from the 2 dedicated effects, which is the reverb and the delay, it also has a fairly nice filter as well that I consider an effect because obviously we consider the cutoff filter on the SP404 as an effect. The filter on the Blackbox counts as an effect as well. But long-winded explanation short, the ability to stack effects is definitely a pro compared to the SP404, which you have to use effects, at least in real time, one at a time. So one of my other pros for the Blackbox versus the SP404 is the better sequencer. So on the sequencer, you have the ability to record sequences via a step sequence, or you can record them real time by tapping them in on the touchscreen. And you have the ability to do them quantized or unquantized. So I'll run that down just a little bit. I believe I have a metronome on here already. Yes, we do. So right now, and the way that I like to set it up, which is all your prerogative as well, you could put all of these on one single sequence. So you have 16 sequences you can run. I like to do them per sound. So for my kick, I'll have my first sequence right here. And let's do the kick quantized. So go to the sequence, step mode on. So that means it's quantized. So we'll run a 4 to the floor. So now that that's running, I'm going to go back over to my sequences. So that's a clap. I'm going to sequence the clap unquantized. So step mode off, and we'll run that. And then if I want to do the hi-hats, we'll run those quantized, yeah? So quantized hi-hats. So there you see. The cool thing about the sequencer on the Blackbox is you have your ability to do probability. So we're going to go in here and we're going to go to event. And now you see we can select different steps. So for the second step on this sequence, I'll do a 20% probability, 25% probability, and a 5% for that step. So that in and of itself, compared to the 404, it means almost everything to me because you can create simple sequences and have it essentially be generative over time, over the time of your jam. And also the ability to put in your velocities as well. So here we got this velocity. I want to change it to 15. Kind of just scroll. For me, I'm just a more like scroll through just to make it really random, and you know, there you go, different velocities per step. Super sick. So the sequencer compared to the SP404 is beautiful on the 1010Music Blackbox. Definitely a pro. Another one of the pros for the Blackbox is going to be its MIDI in and out. So you have a MIDI in and out port on the back, as well as a clock in and out port on the back. MIDI in, MIDI out, clock in, clock out. And you can also run MIDI devices over USB on the back of the device, which is really handy, especially because when I'm performing, sometimes I like to have my MIDI fighter connected to the Blackbox playing the pads as I'm in the mixer section or turning on and off sequences and stuff. So that's really handy to have, and it's definitely a pro for the Blackbox compared to the SP404, which only has a MIDI in. Another pro that I have written down for the Blackbox is its ability for MIDI Learn. So if I have any external gear, there's another device that's like a MIDI twister or Novation launch control. There's a lot of parameters you can MIDI learn, like pitch. So if I went to pitch and I had another MIDI controller with a knob, I could learn that knob to the pitch on that particular sample, and it also works for volume and filter. I think in some future updates, they'll have more CC implementations, but right now, for what we have, it definitely works, and it's definitely a plus for this box and this video comparing it to the 404. Now, onto some of the cons compared to the SP404, because there are definitely some cons when looking at both of these boxes. One of the first ones is the lack of effects for performance use. So one thing that I definitely missed about my SP404 is just the knobs. I mean, there's just as many knobs here as there is here, but they're implemented and they're utilized way more on the 404SX, especially with the 29 different effects that you can use. It was really built to be a performance tool, whereas the Blackbox is more of a production tool and less a performance tool, and that there's definitely a difference in that. After having this for about 11 months and really taking the time of the last 3 months to kind of get into it like I used to perform on here, they're definitely different workflows, but I found a really nice synergy with this device compared to the 404. This by itself, standalone, doesn't compare to what you can do on the SX. Another con for the Blackbox compared to the SP is the effects on the Blackbox sound okay. What I mean by that is the algorithms on the box are all right. The delay is okay. Nothing wrong with that. It's just typical digital delay. The SP has classic delay, sort of like we heard on the Blackbox, but it also has a tape delay. And the reverb on the Blackbox is all right, you know. Damping, take damping off, long decay. Pretty long, it's clean. There's nothing to write home about. And I mean, the delay on the SX is nice as well. Also, nothing super jazzy to write home about, but at least you can control the tone. So one of the cons for the Blackbox compared to the SP is definitely the effects being somewhat lackluster in comparison. Also, another con for the Blackbox compared to the SP is going to be the tone shaping ability. When I wrote that, you know what? I still stand by that. On the SP, you're definitely going to have to run a ton of resampling to get to a place that's kind of funky and really mangled and out there. But with that being said, you can still definitely do that here. You can run your effect through the analog tape echo, and then you can resample that with the chorus on there. Then you can resample that with some phaser, then resample that with some auto wah, then resample all that with some reverb, and you've done that all in box with just a couple of minutes of resampling, and bam, you have like a completely new, sick, cool sound. Within that same sentence, I will say the Blackbox having the granular engine and the ability to loop samples and have long form samples, you could definitely do some cool stuff, but I feel like it's more hands-on and tactile with the SP. I've yet to really try and push this box like that as far as tone shaping. It was just more fun for me to do it on the SP. The 29 different ways you can shape a sound were on here, and you can get some nice stuff, but it just pales in comparison to this guy right here. So another con for the Blackbox, and a huge con, which sucks, there's no EQ on the Blackbox. So the only tone shaping thing you have on the Blackbox is the filter. So, you know what I mean? Which is okay, but you can definitely hear like a sharp. Having an EQ would just be, I mean, even an isolator, like this has an EQ and it has an isolator, you know? So big con for the Blackbox is there's no onboard EQ. It's just kind of whack when you have a sample in here and you want to take out some of the mids or something, boost something, no EQ. So one of the cons compared to the 404. Another con for the Blackbox compared to the 404 is you're limited to 16 pads per preset. So whereas on the 404, you're able to access 12 samples across 10 different banks, which is what, like 120, whereas on the Blackbox, you are limited to 16 pad per preset that you're in, and switching between presets isn't very speedy. So, you know, if you're performing on the SP, you just have a lot more variety and variation between like one-shot samples that you might want to pull up or switching between tracks. Whereas in here, you want to be intentional with what you occupy your pads with. Just keep that in mind. Limited to 16 pads per preset, whereas on the SP, you have 12 pads over 10 banks instantaneously. So definitely a con for the Blackbox compared to the SP. Another con that I have on the Blackbox is its menu diving, which is one of its pros because of your access to all these menus that you can see in full color on your LCD screen. At least for the first couple of months, finding my way around like the mix section and, you know, knowing which buttons to press to get into the mutes and your FX and then clicking on it, and sort of tedious. It's welcomed and it's definitely a pro, but it's also a con if you don't know and you're not muscle memory tied into how things go. And with that menu diving also comes with the knob controls. So I'm just now starting to get more accustomed to it. So I know the top knobs go righty, righty, and it goes all the way from the lower pads to the upper, and then lefty, lefty. The bottom ones are up and down. So when you're playing on the Blackbox and you want to like go into a pad to get to its information, you trigger it. Hopefully in a future update, you'll have sort of a shortcut to where you don't need to trigger it. But there's just nifty. So the Blackbox is very intuitive, or it was thought about well, but there's just certain things that could be done faster. So if I want to go to another pad, you have this little screen up here, but I live on this screen predominantly, especially if I'm performing and I'm doing like a pad velocity on this side. I want to be able to go into here without triggering it and edit it. But with that being said, along with the menu diving, which is a pro and a con, the knob fit in that category is you really have to remember what they do and what direction they go. Spending maybe a day or two figuring it out and really memorizing it would definitely do some help with that, but I still have it down as one of my cons. Whereas the menus on here, there's no touchscreen, but I know where I'm at. Like I know where my loop, like all the buttons are pretty much laid out for me to chop my sample, reverse my sample, mark, remain, record, resample. Here, you just gotta click a lot and twist a lot to get what you're looking for. So I wrote that down as a con compared to the 404. So for this video, that pretty much summarizes my feelings for the 1010Music Blackbox and why I still own it after 1 year of having it and selling my original SP to acquire it. If I had to get rid of either one of these and only keep one, because I just recently bought this, I do like the synergy between these two devices. I think I'll have more of my performance and like my sequence and my beat on here, and I'm going to use this now more as an effect processor for my Blackbox rather than making beats on here, because I do enjoy making music on the Blackbox, and I think I'm just going to use this as like a resampler. So I'll sample some of my jams onto here, tweak some of those samples, and then resample it back into the Blackbox. I haven't really worked out the workflow yet, but in my mind, that's how I see it. If I had to get rid of one of these boxes and only keep one, I'm going to say the Blackbox is going to stick with me. For one, because it's so portable, it's so light, it fits almost in your pocket. Also, for what I have hopes for it to do, I know Aaron at 1010Music, who created the firmware, and I believe this whole thing is his conception, 1010Music as a whole. He's doing a great job. This right now, currently with its 1.7.4 update, does wonders. It's a beautiful box for me and for my workflow, and it pushes me to create the kind of music that I want to make. It took me a while, but me working with it and it working with me, we're able to come up with some cool tracks. I love the SP404. I had my old one for 6 years. I definitely made some funky stuff on it production wise, but it's sort of dated software. It's a dated system, and this is just the new kid on the block. Definitely does some good stuff. Together, they're going to do some great stuff. If I had to choose and only take one with me, I would definitely get rid of the 404 again to keep the Blackbox for what it does currently and for what it could potentially do in the future. Hopefully some more effects, hopefully the ability to maybe sequence effects. What else? The looping on the Blackbox is also a pro that I forgot to talk about, but maybe better looping implementations. I don't know, sky's the limit for this guy, especially because of the processing that this has compared to this, but we'll see. You can check out some of the videos that I have on my page, jamming with the Blackbox, and I'll continue to upload more videos. Tune in if you want to see more of this 1010Music Blackbox, especially if you want to see it in synergy with the SP404 and my MC101. So until next time, peace.